We're going to go ahead and get started knowing we've got a bunch of meetings today. This is a meeting of the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee on September 2nd, 2025, and I detect a quorum. As a reminder, will all members please put their yellow committee member cards in their holder and then remove them at the end of the meeting as well. Thanks. We did not have anybody sign up for public comment period, but I believe we do have people who wanted to speak for public comment. I see one hand raised back there who would like to speak. We can have up to 4 people speak. And sir, if you want to come on up, then we'll go ahead and recognize you as a part of the public comment period. Oh, sir, they're going to check your ID real quick for Tennessee residency, and then we'll get going. All right, how's this new screen work? All right, sir, I'm going to start the timer and turn on your mic. We're having some technical difficulties in the room, so you may or may not be able to see the timer, but I'll wave my hands when you've got like 30 seconds left. You can go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you for allowing me to speak here. My name is Chris Madden. I represent Old Town Trolley Tours. A company has proudly served Nashville for over a decade. We provide safe, family-friendly hop-on, hop-off tours to thousands of visitors from all over the world. We're speaking tonight in support of BL 2025-954, sponsored by Council Member Coupin and others. This bill would establish a standalone regulatory framework for seated sightseeing vehicles, or SSVs. Currently, SSVs are permitted under the same entertainment vehicle regulations that were originally written for party buses. Party buses are a unique type of offering that have been very popular here in Nashville in recent years, but SSVs are not party buses and should be regulated separately. We operate on fixed routes, require all passengers to be seated at all times, prohibit alcohol on board, and move tourists between cultural destinations. While it may have made sense in the earlier years to regulate us together, the growth and diversity of Nashville's tourism industry means we now need clearer distinctions and regulations that reflect the distinct nature of each vehicle type. The current lack of distinction has caused confusion for operators, customers, and regulators alike. The intent of this bill is simply to provide clarity, structure, and better enforcement tools without expanding or retracting the number of permitted vehicles or changing the existing rules that govern SSV operations. We believe this bill is a thoughtful, balanced update to Metro's code and one that will lead to better enforcement and ultimately a better ecosystem for downtown for all. We want to thank Councilmember Coupin for his deliberate approach to crafting this legislation, and we respectfully ask that you support him by supporting this bill. Thank you for your consideration.
All right, thank you. Is there anybody else who would like to speak? Okay. We will now move on to items on the consent agenda. I'll read through the bill numbers, and if there's anything you want removed, let me know. As of right now, numbers 9, 10, and 11 are the ones that I have off consent. Does anybody have anything to add? All right. Seeing none, I'll now read the captions of the items on the consent. Item number 1, RS 2025-1466, a resolution approving an intergovernmental agreement by and between the State of Tennessee Department of Transportation and the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County, acting by and through the Nashville Department of Transportation for the North Nashville Community Engagement Jefferson Street Corridor Planning and Environmental Linkages Study, Federal Project Number HFP-1900, State Project Number 19LP LM F1 to 11 PIN 136151. Proposal number 2025M035AG001. Item 2, RS 2025-1469, a resolution authorizing the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County, acting by and through the Department of Water and Sewerage Services, to enter into a preliminary engineering agreement with R.J. Coleman Railroad Company, Nashville and Eastern Railroad Line to facilitate the development of proposed drainage improvements for resolution of a sinkhole for property located at 1201 Freightliner Drive in Davidson County. Item number 3, RS 2025-1470, a resolution approving a particular participation agreement between the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County, acting by and through the Metropolitan Department of Water and Sewerage Services and Profit Dixon Partners to provide sanitary sewer service improvements for Profit's proposed development, as well as other existing properties in the area. Sponsor Coop & Gamble and Evan Siegel. Item number 4, RS 2025-1471, a resolution authorizing the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County to abandon existing public water main and to accept new public water main for property located at 517 West Trinity Lane. Sponsors Toombs, Gamble, and Evan Siegel. Item number 5, RS 2025-1472, a resolution authorizing the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County to accept a new public sanitary sewer main and sanitary sewer manholes for property located at 1203 Greenwood Avenue, also known as Greenwood Cocktail Bar. Sponsors Cap, Gamble, and Evan Siegel. Item number 6, RS 2025-1473, a resolution authorizing the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County to abandon existing public sanitary sewer main and to accept new public sanitary sewer main and sanitary sewer manhole for property located at 3862 Dickerson Pike, also known as Kemp Parking Lot. Sponsors Gamble and Evan Siegel. Item number 7, RS 2025-1474, resolution authorizing the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County to abandon existing public sanitary sewer main, fire hydrant assembly, and sanitary sewer manhole, and to accept new public water and sanitary sewer mains, fire hydrant assemblies, and sanitary sewer manholes for property located at 5047 John Hager Road, also known as Kingsley Park. Sponsors Evans, Gamble, and Evan Siegel. Item number 8, RS 2025-1475, a resolution authorizing the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County to abandon existing public sanitary sewer main and sanitary sewer manhole and to accept new public sanitary sewer manhole for 5 properties located on Joe Johnston Avenue, also known as MLK High School parking. Sponsors Coop & Gamble and Evan Siegel. Item number 12, BL 2025-995, an ordinance amending sections 1026-010, 1028-010, and 1624-330 of the Metropolitan Code of Laws pertaining to intentional designs for vegetative growth. Sponsors Parker, Hill, Bradfordville, and Benedict. Number 13, BL 2025-996, an ordinance authorizing the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County by and through the Nashville Department of Transportation and Multimodal Infrastructure to construct, install, and maintain underground and above-ground encroachments along 2nd Avenue North between Commerce Street and Church Street. Sponsors Coop & Gamble and Parker. Item number 14, BL 2025-997, an ordinance authorizing PR 2-SH Peabody Union Apartments Owner LLC to construct and install an underground encroachment at 30 Peabody Street. Sponsors Coop & Gamble and Parker. Item number 15, BL 2025-998, an ordinance authorizing the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County to abandon existing public sanitary sewer main and sanitary sewer manhole and to accept new public sanitary sewer main, sanitary sewer manholes and easements for the property located at 3207 West End Circle, also known as West End Circle Townhomes. Sponsors Gadd, Gamble, and Parker. Item number 16, BL 2025-999, an ordinance authorizing the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County to accept new public sanitary sewer and sanitary sewer force main, sanitary sewer manholes and easements for 2 properties located at West Division Street, unnumbered in Mount Juliet, Wilson County, also known as Canebrake Phase 3B. Sponsors Gamble and Parker. Item number 17, BL 2025-1000, an ordinance authorizing the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County to accept new public sanitary sewer main, sanitary sewer manholes, and easements for the property located at West Trinity Lane, unnumbered, also known as 111 through 113 West Trinity Lane. Sponsors Toombs, Gamble, and Parker. Item 18, BL 2025-1001, an ordinance authorizing the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County to accept new public sanitary sewer main, sanitary sewer manholes, and easements for property located at 1231 Pawnee Trail, also known as Riverwalk Reserve Residential. Sponsors Gamble, Parker, and Hancock. Item 19, BL 2025-1002, an ordinance authorizing the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County to accept new public sanitary sewer main, sanitary sewer manholes, and easements for 3 properties located at 1331 Hunters Lane and Hunters Lane unnumbered, also known as Heritage Creek Phase 3 and 4. Sponsors Gamble and Parker. Anybody have anything else they want to pull from consent? All right, seeing none, do we have a motion to approve? It has been moved and second. All in favor, say aye. All opposed? Any abstentions? All right. 11 in favor, 0 opposed, and 0 not voting. The first item off consent, number 9, BL 2025-954, an ordinance amending Title VI of the Metropolitan Code to amend the definition of entertainment transportation vehicles and to regulate the operation of seated sightseeing vehicles. Sponsors Coop, Allen, Rutherford, and Stiles. See that Council Member Coopin is here, and I will go to him just as soon as I figure out how to do that. All right,
Thank you.
Councilmember Coopin, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair. I believe I'd like to move the bill first. And can I move?
All right, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor? Oh, no, wait, discussion. Do we have discussion on the bill? Okay, and I think you have an amendment.
Yes, I'd like to move the substitute, please, with a brief comment.
All right, it's been moved and seconded.
So this is a bill that I've been hard at work on, and it's something that I noticed, honestly, when I took office, that the currently in the Transportation Licensing Commission, there's one chapter governing both party buses and sightseeing vehicles, party buses being stand and drink, and seated sightseeing being sit down and get a tour. And there are other similar types of vehicles that have their own code chapters, so it made sense to me to separate them into their own code chapters. So the substitute is very similar to the bill. We're just making some changes throughout that we've been working on. It takes it into its own chapter. It tightens up some rules and regs around making clear that the seated sightseeing vehicles don't serve alcohol. There are ones that are currently not supposed to serve alcohol, but their websites say, come drink with us. And so this cleans that up. And then it does create a 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. permit. Currently, any of the ETVs are not permitted to operate in the downtown core 1st through 8th, KVB to Union from the hours of 4 p.m. to 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. We know that congestion is a big conversation downtown. We know we've passed Connect Downtown as a body and Choose How You Move and are working on reducing congestion. That being said, that this 4 to 6 permit would require a traffic study and would require vehicles to prove that they can move the speed of traffic as well as actually move the speed of traffic during this time. They'd have to be on an approved fixed route, so they couldn't just be kind of aimlessly wandering around downtown. It would be so they could move through and pick passengers up and drop them off and kind of move expeditiously through. My intention is to get this moved in committee. There's still some discussions ongoing. As we know, this is a tight council day with things coming out this morning and conversations happening today that normally would have happened on Monday. So there's a chance I may look for a deferral on the floor tonight, but would like to get it moved in committee, have any discussion here, questions answered. We've been working with so many folks in the downtown space, Department of Transportation, many others. So again, I would hope my colleagues would support passing it in committee, knowing that there's going to be further discussion on the floor.
All right, thanks. Does Councilmember Spain, you're recognized?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And thank you to the sponsor. I appreciate the bill, and it makes all the sense in the world to me to create a separate class for our sightseeing vehicles, separate and apart from the entertainment vehicles. My only concern is that by creating a separate class and giving them the ability to get this permit to operate between 4 and 6, are we setting ourselves up for a lawsuit by the entertainment vehicles, which was kind of alluded to when this went before traffic and parking, and or preemption at the state level? And I'm sure that's been a part of the conversations, and I'm not sure if that's a conversation for legal or NDOT or whom, but I'd just like for somebody to speak to whether or not they feel this is a legally defensible framework for starters.
Our office and Metro Legal has taken a look at this bill and the substitute, and we've had a lot of discussions about the rational basis for creating the separate framework and believe that that is defensible.
Councilmember Spain,
Just, could you speak specifically to the part about setting up the permitting process to operate between 4 and 6? Because I think that would be the issue that would be subject to litigation or possible state legislation or whatever.
Yeah, I think the rational basis between having the separate framework is that one set of vehicles is moving slower than the pace of traffic and has individuals who are potentially standing up and imbibing. The second class of vehicles has seated passengers, and they are moving at the speed of traffic, so they are not kind of clogging up, the movement through the downtown or the streets, the public right of way.
Thank you.
I think the sponsor has his hand up. Does anybody else have any questions or comments? I see Councilmember Allen and Councilmember Cash. Would the sponsor be okay if I went to them first and then circle back to you for any further comments? All right, Councilmember Allen, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. If I could get the sponsor, when we circle back around to him, to explain the change that is being made, which I think makes sense. So currently, all of these, or most of these vehicles already have a permit as a entertainment vehicle. And so there's some specific language in there about changing theirs and what happens in the transition. And I read it twice, but if I could hear it explained in English, that might be helpful.
Okay, I'll go to the sponsor for that.
Thanks, Chair, and I'll address my colleague, Councilmember Spain's, just a little bit more as well, but working backwards, thank you to my colleague for asking that question. And this is part of where the substitute made some changes. Originally, it required an individual who currently had an ETV sightseeing permit to forfeit their permit and pick up this new seated sightseeing permit. As we understand that you can't really force somebody to give up an active permit. I believe it's a property right. And so what this will do is during the current permit year, allow folks to opt in so they can trade their seated sightseeing, so they can trade their ETV seated sightseeing permit for the new permit. Or if they choose not to, they don't have to, but then at the end of this permit year, those permits would go away and then you would have to opt in for the new permit if you so chose. And then as far as the question on state preemption and legal defensibility, I know Special Counsel Darby knows we worked extensively on, and Metro Legal as well, on making sure there was a rational basis and really trying to draw this line clearly. And the way I see it, I know some folks are presenting it as, well, this is unfair because they get to do something that we don't. What I would say is that anybody can choose to acquire either permit, right? So the way I look at it is if someone wants to operate an entertainment vehicle, they have two choices now. They could either get an entertainment vehicle, party bus, stand and drink permit, or they can get or a seated sightseeing, sit and do a tour permit. Even if folks currently have one, that it doesn't mean that they are being discriminated against. There's two different permits, two different kind of pathways. But that being said, I've worked extensively also with some of the ETV operators, and in fact, quite a few of their suggestions have made it into the bill itself. So I can't promise what their reaction or response, or if that they would go to the state or things like that. But I can say that I've worked very, very extensively with folks on both sides of this issue.
All right, I think Councilmember Allen, did you have anything further? Okay, Councilmember Cash?
Thank you, Chair. The division and the aspects that I've heard about and that I understand makes sense to me. The one thing that I was having trouble visualizing is my understanding is like we're looking at like the sightseeing buses have certain stops along their route, along their set routes, and that maybe there's been over the last decade a mishmash of designating what those stops are. And so I guess I'm just wondering, like, are we, and I hear that there's going to be some revision of that. And so I'm wondering, like, are we designating like full 24/7 loading zones for those vehicles, or just kind of pinpointing where they are allowed to stop for a bit? Does it typically involve unloading and loading back up? And like, what criteria are we looking at to determine where the best places are for those to be designated?
All right, I'll go to the lead sponsor for that.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to my colleague. It's a great question. So it would be loading and unloading. I believe it says no more than 5 minutes unless extenuating circumstances. So, for example, if someone was in a wheelchair and needed additional time to get on and off or something like that. To your point, there is a mishmash of stops out there. And so what this would do is within 30 days of this legislation passing, anybody that is getting these seated sightseeing permits and has stops would have to come up with a list, present it to the Department of Transportation, who would then look at those, make recommendations to the Traffic and Parking Commission that would then get to either approve or disapprove those stops. And it hands the right-of-way decision-making to Traffic and Parking where I believe it belongs. So that would address that issue, and it would take it from a mishmash of stops to these are the ones that were kind of studied and approved by Traffic and Parking.
Councilmember Cash, do you have any?
Nope, that makes sense to me. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Does anybody else have any questions or comments? Okay. Seeing none, all in favor on the bill as substituted or the substitute? Any opposed? Any not voting? Okay, it's 12 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting. Sandy came in. Is it still 11? Okay, sorry, 11. Okay, and on the bill as substituted, all in favor? Okay, any opposed? Any not voting? All right, 11 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting as substituted. All right, item number 10, BL 2025-955, an ordinance to amend section 9.20.020 of the Metropolitan Code of Laws regarding motor vehicle noise within residential zoning districts. Committee member and lead sponsor, Councilmember Ellis. It's sponsored by Ellis, Allen, and Benton. Councilmember Ellis, you are recognized.
Thank you, Chair. I am going to, I want to move to defer this indefinitely with a brief explanation.
Moved and seconded.
Thanks. So the reason that I'm deferring this indefinitely is because I spoke with the commander of the traffic division, and from what I understand, the patrol officers, they don't have the ability to check a parcel zoning code or type on their dashboards. So basically, this bill would, what I'm looking to do would be null and void. And they believe that as the code is currently written, that it is enforceable with the mufflers. So I would make a motion to defer this indefinitely.
Right.
Don't think I made that before.
Yeah.
Can't remember.
Okay. Is there a second? Okay. All in favor, say aye. Oh, sorry. Is there discussion on the motion? Oh, Councilmember Coupon?
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to my colleague. I know she's worked very hard on this and to represent her community. Just a question for Metro Legal, I guess. If it's deferred indefinitely, and, you know, again, as I've spoken about, my downtown district is very excited about this bill and this initiative. It's one of the top issues they face. Is that something that I could file a more focused bill to apply to downtown given the indefinite deferral? Does the indefinite deferral with the bill being out there hold that spot such that the sponsor would be the only one that could address this topic?
While the bill is pending indefinitely, another bill that addresses the same topic or section would have to be significantly different from the one that's pending in order to be filed separately.
Okay, thank you. And then what would be the benefit or cost for indefinite deferral versus a withdrawal and refile at a later date if needed?
Well, an indefinite deferral would be required to stay off of the agenda for a minimum of 60 days. And once it is placed back on the agenda, it would be deferred for another meeting for the council members to, review it and address it. A withdraw, and then that would prevent refiling right away. It has to be off the agenda for the 60 days. A withdrawal would allow another bill to be filed immediately by the sponsor or anyone else.
Thank you. I would love if the sponsor would consider withdrawal versus indefinite deferral. I would, wouldn't intend to do anything countywide, but I really would like to address this for my district. So, yeah, thanks.
Would the sponsor like to respond to that?
So given that, the question that I have is, given that the patrol officers, MNPD, doesn't have the ability on their dashboard to determine what the zoning type is of a parcel, then why would you want to implement such thing?
I'm going to allow this. We are bumping up against our time, and we still have one more bill to consider. So, Councilmember, if you'll be brief.
Thank you. Yep. Appreciate that. I actually also spoke with MNPD as well. And while they can't look up individual zoning districts or parcels, the DTC is used throughout the code in quite a few areas to define enforcement and rules and regs and all sorts of things. There's noise code that's DTC specific. So since that is a big area with clear boundaries, it would be something that you could apply things to the DTC or not. So that is something that PD could do. They couldn't look at individual parcels with a mix of zoning, but the DTC is historically used as a kind of on-off switch for code enforcement.
Yeah,
Councilmember,
if
yeah.
you'll allow me, I would just say it's disappointing that the work that I put into this bill will not have a positive impact or make a difference for the people out in my district. But as a show of willing to, make it work for you, I would be willing to withdraw it. So should I make a motion to withdraw?
You can just say you withdraw it, and that's
Withdraw
all.
it.
Okay. Thank you, Councilmember. Item number 11, BL 2025-956, an ordinance to amend Chapter 12.40 of the Metropolitan Code of Laws regarding abandoned vehicles and restrictions on the street and alley parking. Sponsors Ellis and Benton. Councilmember Ellis, as this is your bill, I will.
Yeah, so thank you for recognizing me. So I want to move the bill, or do I need, yes, move the bill.
All right.
And now can I move the substitute?
Yes. All right.
Okay. And so in the substitute, just based on feedback from the previous Transportation Infrastructure Committee, I made some of the changes, taking out the school buses, which was an issue that was raised, and then changing the gross weight for the vehicle from 8,800 pounds, which was the size of a U-Haul, empty U-Haul, up to the 10,000 pounds, which my colleague wanted it to be considered a Class 3. And then I also added in the emphasis of, making sure that we have that 12-foot area that the fire engines and other emergency vehicles are able to pass through on a neighborhood street. So just made some changes to ensure that this bill is a good bill and that we're making our neighborhood streets safer.
Thank you, Councilmember. Does anybody seek to be recognized? Councilmember Coupon?
Sorry to keep going. I know this is a long meeting, run into another one. And again, appreciate my colleague. I think she's doing some really great work addressing some substantive issues. My question would be, and this was my question last meeting, if we're referring to abandoned vehicles, which has a definition already in the code, and then I believe this refers to longer than 2 hours, if I'm understanding correctly. So how would that kind of reconcile if it's technically then not defined as abandoned, but it's defined as, 2 hours plus?
The bill actually takes out the abandoned language from the current code that's in there. So it doesn't address the abandoned vehicles per se, it just addresses the 2 hours.
Thank you.
Councilmember Coupon, does that answer your question?
Thank you.
All right. I just does anybody else seek to be recognized? Okay, not on substitute. Okay. Substitute, yep. All right, we're going to vote on the substitute. All in favor of the substitute? All right, any opposed? Any not voting? Okay, on the bill as substituted. Does anybody seek to be recognized? Councilmember Parker?
Thank you, Chair. So I appreciate the changes that were made in the substitute. I think it does improve the legislation, but I'm still trying to get a full picture of the scope of what we're covering here and what we're prohibiting here. So this might be a question for Director Darby. So I have a friend who they just bought their first home in Old Hickory like a year ago, and my housewarming gift was to do some home repairs for them. At that neighborhood in Old Hickory, there's no alleys and there is no driveways. So I loaded up my little 5x8 trailer behind my Ford Focus, and I went to the Home Depot and got supplies, and then I went and parked it, and we worked for, a full day. I've been back, Anyway, in that case, like, I've got a trailer behind my car. This thing says we can't park trailers anywhere on the streets, anytime. So I would be, if this were in effect, I would have been violating the Metro Code by parking a 5x8 trailer on the street. Is that accurate?
Councilmember Darby? Or Special Counsel Darby just gave you a promotion.
Is it a promotion?
With much less pay.
So if you were engaged in loading or unloading activities, then no, you would not be in violation. If it was just a trailer parked on the public right-of-way, then I believe it would be in violation unless somewhere otherwise permitted to be allowed to be parked.
So for most of the day that we were working, after we got all the materials and tools off the trailer, that would have been a violation of Metro Code, if this were in effect.
I think that the law could be interpreted as much.
I would argue that that's the plain language in the law, is that this would not allow that. It would prohibit that.
Councilmember Parker, do you have?
I guess I'm just concerned about the scope of what we're prohibiting here. And I think some kind of allowance for like things that people rely on for their lives and livelihoods. I'm not a person who's pulling a trailer around on a day-to-day basis, but I know a lot of people who cut grass or contractors, handyman, et cetera, who do that. And I just want to make sure that like we're attacking the problem that we want to attack without kind of causing headaches and disruptions to people's lives and livelihoods. So I don't think I can support it as is, but I do think it's greatly improved by the substitute, and I appreciate those changes that were made.
Okay, thank you. It's Councilmember Coupin. You've already been recognized once. No, not on this one. This is a whole new one for you. So I'll go straight to you, Councilmember Coupin.
I don't mean to be talking so much. It's just, three crazy bills in this committee. I don't mean crazy to the sponsor. I mean crazy from my opinions. My question, I guess, would be, and to the chair who has served on the Traffic and Parking Commission for the last 2 years, is this something that could be addressed within the Traffic and Parking Commission if the concern is certain vehicles longer than 2 hours? Is this something that T&P could take up in certain areas, certain streets that are problematic, limiting that or limiting, weight restrictions down certain roads? I know in Germantown we did that where there were big trucks coming through and blocking things and parking, and we just said you have to be less than a certain weight. I mean, do you feel like the sponsor might be able to achieve her goal through the traffic and parking lane?
Thank you, Councilmember Coupin. So there are a couple to sort of broad brush answer that question, and then I see Mr. Purvis back there, and I would really appreciate him coming up to correct me. My understanding is that this administratively, we can make designations on what can park on the right-of-way on certain size streets, and then other size streets have to go to the Traffic and Parking Commission because they're large enough, and then certain vehicles are already also prohibited. He and I have talked about this, and if he could just explain it in the language that he explained to me, I think that'd be super helpful.
Certainly. Thank you, Chair. Matt Purvis, I'm the Council Liaison for the Department of Transportation Multimodal Infrastructure. So it depends on what is trying to be solved here. As far as instances where the street is where the residential street is narrow enough to where parking on either side makes it difficult. The TMP had previously given us the power administratively to, on streets that are less than 30 feet wide, we can restrict up to one or both sides of the street from any parking. That would be one way we would solve a narrow street. If there's a sightline issue at an intersection, then obviously we could, without even TMP action, we could restrict, we put signs up restricting parking from close to the intersection, as that's already prohibited by law, a certain footage from intersections and stop signs. So it depends on what's trying to be solved here. But if there's a road wider than 30 feet and there's parking, narrow parking issues or just parking issues in general, that would require a petition and a TMP action to restrict parking on one or either side.
Thank you, Mr. Purvis. That's helpful. I see the sponsor and then Councilmember Benedict. So Councilmember Ellis, you're recognized.
One thing that I forgot to say is that hopefully once the substitute is passed through the committee on the floor, I plan to defer the bill or as substituted until October the 21st, because I'm going to refer it to the Traffic and Parking Commission, which has the meeting on October the 13th, so I can get the feedback from them.
Thank you, Councilmember. That's helpful. Councilmember Benedict, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair. I appreciate that last comment too, because I think that's super helpful to get input from the Traffic and Parking Commission. I do have just a couple questions. Is this possible to do? I guess Director Darby is who I'd like you to direct these questions to. Is this something to do that is there a way that we can do this in certain areas of the county rather than as the county as a whole? So for instance, I've got a constituent that in the 20 years I've lived in the district I represent, they've had a semi-truck parked inconspicuously, of course, conspicuously to those of us who see it all the time, but along the side of the road, and, they use it and they park it there, and it's not of a concern to the community. I also have people with food trucks, so Councilmember Parker, kind of spoke to some of the things also that I see in District 7. So in the urban core, kind of these people don't have as much land to park their, vehicles off the street property. So I'm struggling with that for the area of the city that I represent, but I certainly understand that in other areas of the city, this might be really helpful. So I'm curious, is there a mechanism that, we could have it as an opt-in? I'm guessing that would have to be zoning code or something, Title 17, where, people could say, we don't want this in our neighborhood. Or is there a way to just do this with certain areas of the county? Is there any mechanism, or do you have any thoughts or opinions on the broad range of questions there?
I think it's something that we could look into. I think it's also something that we would need to address with NDOT and traffic and parking to see what types of permits might be, allowable, or what types of streets might have certain restrictions on them or not.
Okay. I think that's the direction I'd really like to see this go if the sponsor is so inclined. I just think in the urban core, we just don't have a lot of land for people to, park their vehicles on, and we want people to be building housing on the land that they've got so we can, utilize our infrastructure that's already in place, for instance. So I don't want to take away this option for people who are earning their living in town through things like food trucks and whatnot. So that's the line of thinking that I've got on this, and I'm looking forward to hearing from TMP and what other information the sponsor is able to come up with. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Ellis, I saw your hand. I just want to make sure, does anybody else have anything? Okay. I think and I'll come right back to you, Councilmember. My thought on this is that I think that we have some tools in place today that might be helpful. I'm very curious to see what the Traffic and Parking Commission does with it. I am curious if the sponsor would consider deferring it, going ahead and deferring it to get that feedback so that it can be more easily amended based on the feedback that comes from traffic and parking. But I'm a no today, but I'm not. I think that it's come a long way and it might get further. So I don't know if you've thought about that. I'm going to, Councilmember, I'm going to go to the sponsor because I did just ask her a question, and then I'll come back.
Yeah, and thank you for that. I want to go back to the points that my other colleagues were making. This is when it comes to the trailers or the people that are doing other work. This is if it exceeds that 10,000 pound limit. So it's, two qualifiers there. But then the other thing that I'll say to deferring it, I want to try to get this in place, this new rule in place before the winter, because oftentimes people, unfortunately park these types of box trucks and trailers and semi trucks on the street. And that brings up a whole other bout of issues, when we have the snow plows and things like that. So that's my response.
Thank you, Councilmember. I'm going to, Councilmember Benedict and Councilmember Parker, and then going to try to wrap this up because we're already 15 minutes past, and I don't want every committee to be delayed and us be here forever tonight because of this. Great discussion, but Councilmember Benedict?
Thank you. I still have concerns about this, and I think that I would be a no, but I really like that the sponsor wants to defer it until October. So I guess if that's the intention to do it on the floor, I just ask that, I think to your point, Chair, if, oftentimes when I'm going to defer something on the floor, I defer it in committee as well. So I just would ask that the sponsor, take that approach so that then, the action we're taking in committee matches what will happen on the floor.
Okay. Councilmember Parker, I think you were next.
Thank you. So in the part that modifies 1240-180, section B, it does not, I don't believe it reads as though you have to both exceed 10,000 pounds and be one of these categories. It reads 10,000 pounds or be one of these categories are subject to these restrictions. You could be both, but I don't think that the way it's written, you have to be at 10,000 pounds for your trailer or food truck to be prohibited to park on the street by this code. Just to be clear, if that's the intent, then I think that might need to be, the language there might need to be changed as well.
Okay. And Councilmember Cash, hold on, I'm going to find you. There you go.
Just a quick procedural question, because I do agree that the deferral and getting traffic and parking feedback is good. If it is deferred to I think I heard 3 meetings, or I heard the date that makes me think 3 meetings, is that an automatic deferral, or is it just one, or would we still be able to put the substitute on in committee? I mean, in full council? If it's a 3-meeting deferral.
It would be a 3-meeting, if it was deferred to October 21st, it would be a 3-meeting deferral in committee. It would not be automatic on the floor. Thus, the amendment could still be moved on the floor, and then that deferral could be made, and it would come back to this committee prior to the 21st.
Thank you.
All right, does anybody else seek to be recognized? All right. Seeing none, all in favor of the bill as substituted? And if y'all could raise your hands, that'd be super helpful on this one. Okay. 1, 2, 5 in favor, all opposed? Okay. 4 opposed and not voting? Should be 2 of y'all out there. All right, hold on. We've missed a couple hands here. Hold on. 1, 2, 3. Who's left? I only got 9 though. Okay. Sorry guys, we're gonna have to do this again because I can't add y'all up. Right. So all in favor, please raise your hands. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All opposed, raise your hands. 1, 2, 3, 4. She voted in favor. All right, is anybody not voting? Who's not? Somebody's left this room. Horton, Councilmember Horton. Against, okay. All right. 5 in favor, 5 against, 0 not voting. Okay. Got it. All right. And with that, that is the end of this committee. That concludes the Traffic and Infrastructure Committee. Anybody want to move to adjourn?